Welcome back to the HallOfSportz Podcast for another Futbol After Show. I'm joined today again by Haider and Joe, where we're going to be doing a bit of a preview of the Manchester United and AC Milan game, and also kind of talk about some of the main topics that's been going on about Manchester United, especially in the last couple of days. So I'm going to start with you, Haider. How are you doing today? Ready for the game? Nervous or confident about the match in about, 58 minutes?
I'm really nervous, mate. I can't lie to you. Obviously, lineups just come out as expected. Really, no surprises. Not surprised that Pogba's not playing because Pogba's been out for God knows how long. Not surprised Van der Beek's not playing because Van der Beek's been out for so long. So I don't know why there are people, complaining or having a go at Oli, because it's just ridiculous. We always say don't rush Pogba back. We've seen it time and time again. Oli's had to do that, or he has done that at times. So yeah, as expected, I do have worries. They have the slight edge with the one goal, obviously away goals. So yeah, very nervous. I just want us to win because I'm not looking forward to the meltdown after the game if we don't.
Yeah, it looks like Joe seems to have frozen again. Joe has been having a lot of technical Oh, he's back. Joe, how are you feeling about the game today? Because, again, I know there's a lot of people that you look online, a lot of people nervous, not as many as confident as maybe before the first leg when we got drawn against AC Milan. How are you feeling today, just about an hour before the game?
I've lost.
Yeah, Joe is he's having technical. Oh.
Yeah, no.
Okay, how are you feeling, Joe? We can hear you again.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know how long I'm going to be with you guys, so apologies in advance for this, but I'm like Haider, really nervous about the game and obviously what's to come. You want to be doing is trying to chase an Italian side, expect them to set up, with a solid, really impressive.
Joe needs to fix his Wi-Fi because this is we can't hear anything that he's saying. But I'll go to the first main question then to you, Haider.
So again, drop out and come back in.
Yeah, drop out and come back in, John. We'll see if it's a little bit better. So we looked at, there was a lot of people thinking that maybe you might get Pogba coming in. I know Van der Beek was back training. Unfortunately, Cavani hasn't made the trip either. But then you look at Rashford's back in. Is he fully fit? Probably not. But what were your first thoughts when you did see that the likes of Pogba and stuff weren't playing? Do you think it was the right decision? Make sure that they are back properly before having to force them into a game?
Yeah, I think it's the right decision. Look, there's been a lot of debate, really. I've seen a lot of people say this is the most important week of United's season. All this rubbish. If United don't progress in these two cups, then it's absolute meltdown. Look, I've been critical of Oli in the past, you know that. But actually, I don't think that is the case, really. Look, a lot of people were saying before this game, and we should try and win every game, and we'll go on to a trophy conversation in a minute, that Oli, the comments he made. But in my opinion, this game's not worth risking Paul Pogba for the rest of the season. You've got 9 more games to secure top 4 and secure second place, because I think that's what you need to do. So I think that still remains your priority. I think the FA Cup is probably the cup that you're more likely to win. With the Europa League still being a difficult one. So I said play Pogba for 20, 30 minutes and then start him on the weekend and play him for 60. And then you've got international break. And the problem is that Pogba probably will go and play for France. He was selected for France. He loves playing for France. You can't knock him for that. He shouldn't, quite frankly, but he will. And I think that's a major, major issue. So it looks like Joe's back. So I'm not surprised at all. Look, you've got limited options in that midfield. It's going to be McFred in a big game. You might see Matic and Pogba on the weekend. But apart from that, it's all pretty much as expected, really. The back 4 picks itself, really, with Bailly out. And then the front 3 again at the moment is picking itself.
Yeah, Joe, does that worry you that United are going into another big game and the midfield is Fred and McTominay, where, look, at the end of the day, if it's 0-0, United go out. So they have to go and they have to chase the game because they need to score. So does that does it fill you with any confidence that, again, we're going into a big game looking a little bit more defensive-minded?
It does concern me because I think, that by the way, can you hear me better now, guys?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I don't know what I've done. Something's happened. Big shout out to Big Ol, though. Worst internet connections since Ollie Chadwick, I reckon, but there we go. But look, I think, double pivot for me. You want that set up when you're protecting a lead or you've got something to defend. It does concern me because I think United are going to have to be creative tonight. I think they're going to have to score more than one goal. And there's we've talked about this many, many times. There's such a lack of creativity comes from that midfield pivot. We know what job it does defensively, and that's great. And it's going to have to do a job defensively tonight because, Milan will be a threat coming forward. They showed that at Old Trafford. But, tonight's about United getting on the front foot, really, and trying to put their marker on this game. And you can't really do that with the midfield. I think the key for United when they play this midfield now is something that they've been doing in the last couple of games is that higher defensive line. That defensive line's got to be higher. So we saw it against Manchester City, obviously, with Maguire and Lindelof. We kind of saw it against Chelsea, although it wasn't effective from an attacking point of view. But United will have to get that defensive line higher, and hopefully that will push, obviously, in turn, McTominay and Fred a bit higher. Because I think the thing with those two players is, especially McTominay, when you do get him in more advanced positions, he is dangerous. We know he's got a great strike on him. He can score goals. He can be a threat in the box. But where they are positioned on the pitch is all reliant on where that back four is. So that back four's got to make sure he gets forward today, especially if it's up against Zlatan Ibrahimovic, because you shouldn't be worried too much about the running behind. I think Rebic is unavailable for this game as well, isn't he? So, they haven't really got the threat of him. I know Rafael Leao, is it? I think he's obviously missing as well. So they have got clever players.
Got Çalhanoğlu back. He's going to be a big threat.
Yeah, Çalhanoğlu, his creativity. But you shouldn't, look, excuse me, because my grasp of Milan is not great, but I wouldn't be too worried about the sort of runs in behind tonight. So I think United need to make sure they stay high up the pitch.
Mute. You're on mute.
You're on mute, mate. You've done my classic, mate.
Sorry. Basically, I think the problem then, I guess, is Milan are ahead in this game, so they don't really have to push. They just need to defend quite well, which they did at Old Trafford. Like, you looked at that game, and other than that goal by Amad Diallo, United didn't really create that much. And does that worry you at all, Haider? Because we go into this game, and look, we're going to talk about it in a few minutes about winning some of these important matches. When it's come to these types of games that are close, they're in cup competitions, United have fallen short under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. So with AC Milan not having to push forward and United having more of the defensive side because you see Fred and McTominay playing again, should that worry us as United fans going into this game? Because you look at it as well, and Dan James is playing, which we all know he's usually more threatening when it's on the counter attack rather than when you actually have to go and try and score yourself.
I'm always worried, Kieran, going into these games because, quite frankly, barring the City game, we're not playing very well. Our form isn't spectacular. Another thing as well is that, like we've said before, and you've mentioned at the beginning of the show, we know what you get with McFred, and I'm not knocking them. And I don't blame them because we know what they are, right? They're going to give you discipline. They're going to give you aggression, tenacity. They'll work hard. They'll be good positionally. But the issue is, again, like we always say, you struggle to progress the ball forward. You see Bruno Fernandes drop deeper. You're seeing a frustrated Bruno Fernandes. That's a concern, I think. And I don't think enough people are speaking about that. I'm not saying he's going to leave. I'm just saying he's frustrated. He's clearly frustrated at his own form. He's obviously frustrated that United have fallen at the hurdle in several occasions. I think he's frustrated at the fact that, he doesn't have... I think he's looking forward to Pogba coming back. He hasn't got enough help from deep behind him. Am I concerned? The thing is, though, I don't expect Milan to just sit back and defend. I really don't. They didn't do it in the first leg. I know they got a point ahead, but they had more possession. They were good on the ball. A lot of people are saying, well, United, they missed this chance and that chance. Granted, that Maguire miss was probably one of the worst misses I've ever seen. But the problem is that you hear these excuses after every game from a certain demographic of the fan base. You hear, we were unlucky if we convert our chances. We shouldn't be saying that every single game. There's two reasons for that. One, we're not clinical enough. That's a problem. But also, two, we're not creating enough. We shouldn't be saying, if this happened, that. And this is a problem. We should be creating enough that we shouldn't be saying ifs and buts. We should be putting them away. So that is my concern. And I think that's where the delusion, I think, comes in the sense that it's not really just it's not just, it seems to me that a large section of the fan base think it's actually just unlucky we lose every week, or we're not winning every week. And it's not. We're just not playing well enough. And a lot of that stems from the fact that we don't have enough creativity in the side. And that's not a knock on McFred, because you know what? They're actually doing the job that they asked to do. They just can't do any better because they are limited in that respect.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that they have good qualities, is the way United really want to play. If you want to attack teams, they just aren't clinical enough and they aren't assured enough, especially when it comes to the passing game. Because when you want to play a ball forward, you look at Fred and McTominay, and it is very kind of pass from side to side, not really trying to engage and trying to penetrate the defense. And that's the problem. Like, you look at it, and again, it's been a big problem when we have looked at the midfields that we've had against some of the bigger teams, and it's no surprise why Manchester United haven't been more attacking in some of those games. The one team that you can do that against is Man City, because they have so much of the ball that really you just need to work on the counter-attack against them. I guess, looking towards this game, Joe, is what do you expect out of it? Because you look at some of the attacking talent that we do have on the pitch. You have Bruno, you have Rashford, and you have Greenwood. What do you think? Like, what are your thoughts when you saw the team and then saw kind of what happened last week against AC Milan? Do you think that the forward players will have enough space to be able to create those chances that Haider's been talking about? That, like Haider said, is usually it's the bad teams that are talking about, well, if we scored that chance or if we score this. You look at the good teams like Manchester City, when they miss 4 or 5 chances, they'll still put in another 1 or 2. And that's a big problem with Manchester United, that they haven't been able to do that. It's this chance creation. Do you think there's enough attacking talent on the pitch for Manchester United to be able to go through and score a goal or 2 in this game?
Yeah, there's enough talent on the pitch on paper. We know there's a few players on there that just need a moment, could do something out of nothing. Look at the first leg. That goal came out of nothing. That beautiful ball from Bruno. Ahmad, obviously, lovely movement goal, and that's all it takes is one moment like that. So we know they've got it in them. I think it's a big thing for United, though, that they haven't got Martial or Cavani tonight. I just think if one of those were available, it would have just made things slightly more easy, giving our forward line a bit more flexibility. I mean, obviously, we all want to see Mason be a number 9, but I pointed out in the group chat the other day that I think he's got 1 goal in 23 games at the moment, which is, from a goal scoring point of view, is a bit worrying.
The thing is, Joe, quickly to add to that, though, it's a great opportunity, isn't it, for Mason?
Yeah, it is. These are the games that if you want to be a number 9 and you want to make a name for yourself scoring, get yourself a couple tonight, take United through, make yourself, put yourself. These are the games where people notice, don't they? If it's a big game like this, they remember when you're scoring games like this. And Pogba's an interesting one, isn't he? Because you think if he had been tempted to start him tonight, where would he have started him? Would he have started him in the double pivot, or would he have put him on the left like we know he's done as well? Obviously, he was so effective on the left when he, in his days, played in Italy, wasn't he? So I wonder, I'm really interested to see what Ollie would have done with that. And also, if he does bring him on later, where he'll bring him on, if you know what I mean. And it could be a night for someone like Pogba or Donny coming off the bench tonight. I could see this game going quite late. I could see United needing something late on. And it's going to be handy for us, I think, that we've got the likes of Pogba. And I know Donny's not shown anything yet, but, we know he's got the capability to come on and pick up some good areas. So this could be a night for a lot of players to make a difference. But I do think Haider's right there with Greenwood. His record's not been great, but if you want to become a number 9 and you want people to take note as you played as a central striker, these are the kind of games that you need to score in, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we saw it a lot last season in the Europa League when it was coming down. It was 0-0 towards the end of a lot of games. Greenwood was the one that stepped up and was able to score. Now he hasn't been able to kind of get going in terms of his goal scoring. You've seen some of his passing. I've noticed that over the last couple of weeks, some of the balls that he's been put into the box have literally been right there to score. I look at the last game that we have, the chance he created for Rashford, that he should have scored. Any centre forward should be scoring that goal. And that's one good thing, that when you see that all-round game start to improve. Like, personally, I hope tonight that he's playing up the middle and they're not going to just switch Rashford and Greenwood in and out, because they need to have him and they need to mold him as that centre forward. Because if you're not going to be able to get someone like Haaland, because look, the money's going to be crazy, you need to be able to develop somebody that's in the club already that has the talent to be an excellent centre forward. And Greenwood's there. He just needs that experience. And look, getting to play in a second leg at the San Siro, look, I know there's no crowd or anything, but it's a European night where you need to kind of, sometimes you do need to have to put the team on your back and score that goal that's going to put you through. We've seen it so many times with other Manchester United strikers that even when the team's not playing well, that a goal can change a lot of fortune for a team. And I think that's going to be really important tonight. The last thing United can do is if they concede early, they're in big trouble, because having to then score one or two, you need to score two to win the game. That's going to be very tough on.
It's a worry though, Kieran, because we start so slowly. I mean, I saw today someone tweeted, "Oh, well, when we started quickly against Southampton, against Leeds, and against City, I think it was." I'm like, that's the issue. You're picking. There's 3 games you can remember, and even against Southampton, we didn't start. I feel like it was the 20th minute where we really started getting going, and that's the issue. That this is a good side. If you do what we did last time, you can find yourself 1-0 down. And at the end of the day, I just want to add on the Greenwood point. I agree with everything you guys have said, and I just think that his all-round game, and that's the positive. That's why I'm not too worried about the goal-scoring record. As you said, Ciaran, like his all-round game has just gone up leaps and bounds. He's got bigger. He looks like he's filled out a little bit. I'd like to see him stick centrally as well. And let's improve his hold-up play, because that is the one. I would say that's the one negative right now, playing with his back to goal, and that's understandable. He's 19, 20 years old. But yeah, he's a future for me. And you're right. If we don't get Haaland, then I think we should be looking to try and play him through the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess the one interesting quote I've just seen kind of come across Twitter is where Solskjaer has told MUTV that you'll probably see Donny and Paul and Ahmed at some point in this game. So that makes you wonder, kind of again, like what Joe said, where does he play Pogba when he comes on? Will he play him in a position where maybe he won't need to do as much physically because he's only come back? Maybe you even push Bruno out wide and you put him right behind the striker. It's an interesting one. The one point I want to bring up, because it's been a big kind of controversy over the last kind of couple of days since I think the interview that was done with the journalist on the AC Milan game with Solskjaer. There's been a big problem amongst the United fan base in terms of United losing. I know before it was semi-finals, but kind of big cup games. And Solskjaer came out this week, and when I can't remember who was it that asked the question about progress within the team, and basically,
you mean which journalist?
Yeah,
Simon Stone. It was.
Yeah, I think it was Simon Stone. So the two things that Ollie said was, sometimes a trophy can hide the other fact of what's happening at the club, and then it's in the league position you normally see if you're progressing. Now, a lot of people have taken these quotes and gone from one side to the other. What we've seen, there's been debates on Sky Sports, there's been debates amongst the fan base that what he's basically saying is that trophies don't matter. And couldn't be further from the truth. The way I see it, and I'll come to you, Joe, straight after, is what he's basically saying is, yes, trophies are important, especially at a club at United. But in terms of progress, it's what happens in the league. And to a certain extent, I do agree on this, because the league really tells you how good a team is, because it's over a course of a season. We've seen in so many other years how some teams can get lucky in the Champions League and get some poor teams and get into a semi-final, and then you just need to beat really one team to get to the final. Or the same thing with the FA Cup. You could get championship teams or League One teams all the way up to a semi-final, while another team could get Premiership teams the whole way through. So, first of all, what were your thoughts when you first saw all the quotes come out about Ollie mentioning kind of this idea of progress? Did you, at first glance, agree or disagree with his sentiments?
First of all, I had a little chuckle because I saw it as a bit of a pop at his counterparts, to be honest. Why? I'm not quite sure. I don't know whether someone riled him. The first people I was thinking of is the likes of Jose Mourinho and Mikel Arteta, because I just felt like, they were the first people that come to my mind when you're thinking, why is he bringing this up, sort of thing, but they're the best examples I can think of, because obviously we know Jose does like to brag off his trophy collection. He did that very well at Manchester United during his time, especially when the heat came on. And obviously we've seen, in terms of trophies equaling progression, we see Arteta winning an FA Cup last season, but this year they're 10th in the league and they're struggling in the league, and people will argue, have they progressed? But look, I don't really want to hear it, because, to be honest with you, as a Manchester United fan, I do want to win trophies. But I think trophies show progression in a different way to the way your league formed us. So I think in the league, you show progression as a sort of a football club, as a sort of playing style, developing that identity, something that we've been critical of Ollie, for 3 years now. You could argue that there's still no clear identity there. I know Haider's big on this, and he'll obviously talk about that after, So that's where you can form that in a league campaign. But actually, I think you can progress winning trophies as well, because it takes something like in here to win trophies, I think. And you can only get that in there by winning these trophies. And I just feel like there's a few players in this United squad that need to take that leap of faith. You remember on Red Devils Talk, we were talking earlier in the season, Kieran, about how good it would be for these players to be involved in a title race, just because they need to experience that high or low, whatever it's going to be. It looks like it's going to be a low now, obviously, with Man City winning it. But they need to sort of know how it feels to sort of get to 10 games out and still have a chance to win in the league. And it's the same with trophies. If you want to become a winner and be successful, you need to win things. Cristiano Ronaldo's a winner because he's won things all his career. Same with Lionel Messi. You don't become a winner unless you win things. And unfortunately, that in football is things like trophies, whether they be individual accolades or whether they be accolades as a team, obviously. And for me, that's what it's all about. But I don't know whether he's trying to take the heat off his players. There may be an element of that. He's maybe trying to take some pressure off because, we're coming towards the latter stage of a cup competition again. But it's not the first time. I'm going to let Haider come in now, but it's not the first time that Ollie's sort of said things in a press conference that's made you go, not quite sure. And I think it's just sometimes he's a bit sloppy in those situations, and he just needs to think a little bit more about how he words things, because our fan base is going to take that and run with it like they have these last couple of days.
Yeah, there's an interesting comment here from the Green Devil. So for me, his comments show a less than winning mentality, and players want trophies. That's where his issue was with it. Look, I completely understand that point, Haider, that yes, you need to have that winning mentality when you're at a big club like Manchester United. But I guess I treat the club right now a little bit differently than before, just because of the kind of road that we've been on, that we've been down for quite a while and really didn't look kind of anything like the club we were under Sir Alex Ferguson. So do you, in your own right, when you watch Manchester United, do you judge progression by trophies, or would you judge it by kind of both, yes, the league position, but mainly kind of performances throughout the year and like the consistency of the team?
Let's break this down bit by bit, because I think that's important, because there's many different sort of facets to it. So I've actually spoken to Green Devil about this. Like, we've had this discussion before. Something I did say to him and a few others was that Joe's mentioned here that Ollie does say things in the pressers that you think, right, why have you said that? And I understand, because we've gone from Jose Mourinho, who was the complete just bashing everyone in the press, right, even his own players, and then Ollie's the complete different end of the spectrum. And I like that in elements. I like how he doesn't throw the players on the bus. I like how he puts his arm around them. I like how he's created this sort of community within the team. What I don't like is like of like almost playing down, and it's you need an element of arrogance. Is what I'm saying. There's too much. It's almost like too much humbleness. Look at Ferguson. You look at Jurgen. You look at Pep Guardiola, right? And you look at Jose Mourinho. They're 4 managers you can say who are all winners, and they've all got similar traits. And one of the similar traits they have is, one, they're terrible losers, absolute terrible losers. And we complain about Klopp being the worst loser. Guardiola last season, the worst loser. But Sir Alex was a nightmare for opposition fans. We just loved it because he's Sir Alex, right? So this is something that's, and Mourinho as well, the worst losers, but they've got that trait in them. It's like, it's almost like you can't teach that. I'm like that as well. I'm not saying I'm like Sir Alex or Jose, but you guys know me, like I'm opinionated. And if I don't like something, I'm going to say it. Like, I'm competitive at work. I want to be the first one that finishes my targets. I want to be the one that brings in the most money. That's just how I am. I don't think Ollie's like that as a person. That doesn't mean he's not a winner. He's won the Champions League. He's won this. But he was part of a team who had the mentality like that. I'm not saying Ollie doesn't want to win. I'm not saying he's a soft touch, but I don't see that, almost toys out the pram that you kind of need to be. It's almost like, I will do anything to win. And I'll tell you that. And I don't see that. So that's something that bothers me. Other people love it. Other people love the fact that he's humble. Me personally, like, I want to see a bit of arrogance. But the other point is, I've been seeing it on the timeline as well, indicators of progress. So let's sort of break that down. Is the club in a better position than when he came in? Absolutely. Is the recruitment better? Absolutely. Is the academy revamped? A joint effort with him, with Murto, with Nicky Butt? Yes, it is. Is there a structure in place? Yes, there is. All indicators of progress. But at the end of the day, and I said this to someone the other day, I said that, does anyone remember the fact that Newcastle United played fantastic football that season where they were 11 points ahead or so, and then Keegan had his "I would love it" meltdown? Does anyone remember that? Do you think they would have taken 1-0 drab, 1-0 victories over 38 games? Of course they would have. All people remember in the history books is that Manchester United were champions that season. And that's my point. Yes, you can have progress, and there is definite progress. But at some point, you have to have some tangible success. And I think what Ollie's saying here, I get it. What he's saying is you don't want to finish 10th like Arsenal and win the FA Cup. You'd rather finish high up in the league and get in the Champions League and not win the trophy. But I know Man United aren't the club they have been for X amount of years, but you still go into every competition to win it. You still go into Europa League tonight to win it. You still go into FA Cup to win it, and you still try and finish as high up in the league. And that's my problem. There's fans who, I don't know why they're doing this, but fans have suddenly turned around and said, "Oh, I wouldn't mind if we weren't in the Europa League and we didn't win it." I don't want to be in the Europa League, but I still want to win it. And this is my problem, is that I feel like sometimes when Ollie makes his comments, it's almost like lowering the standards. And if this was any other manager before us, no one let LVG do it. No one let Jose Mourinho do it. No one let Moyes do it. Moyes said we aspire to be like City. And do you remember the uproar? I know we're 7 years down the line. I would love to be like City.
Ollie said something similar as well, I think, after
worse.
I think he said something very similar.
It was about another team that I'm pretty sure it's about. That's what I remember as well.
Yeah.
And this is a problem. So, and in terms of so what I think of his comments, I think I get what he's saying, and I think the overreaction has been the overreaction. He's just saying that you want to finish as high up as possible. We don't want to be like Arsenal and finish 10th with FA Cup. But conversely as well, to downplay the trophies and fans are just accepting it. Again, a certain demographic of fans. And I hate to bring up Pochettino because I get abused for it, but didn't he say exactly the same thing? Oh, these small trophies are for egos, right? And the hate and the abuse that he got for it. So why is it different now? Because this Pochettino is a manager that a lot of people have said, well, he hasn't won anything at Spurs. Well, he only got to Champions League final. If we have a 4 or 5 year period where Ollie's here and we don't win anything, that's not progress for me. There has to be something tangible at the end of his reign. So when you're looking at all these sort of things together, there's got to be firstly the same energy throughout. And secondly, I think, yes, there's progress. Yes, there's very, very clear progress. But there's key areas where United are not hitting the grade: the style of play and the mentality test and the trophy test.
Kieran, can I just add, Kieran, as well? Like, I think Haider makes a fantastic point on Poch, because there's another parallel as well in terms of, I think a lot of people were quick to jump on Poch when he was involved in those Tottenham sides that come close to winning the league. And the suggestion was that he almost talked his teams out of winning the league. Like, they get close, especially the year Leicester won it. And even up to the last few games in press conferences, he'd be saying, well, we're Tottenham pretty much. We're not meant to be in a title race, things like this. But we've seen Ollie do that this season at United. When we started to falter after being top of the league, it was Ollie who was coming out and saying, well, I'm not sure we were in a title race anyway, blah, blah, blah. We're just focusing on almost playing it down. So I think it's a great point that Haider makes there with Poch. And, you look at, like you said, the criticism that Poch has got. Well, if Ollie's doing that at Manchester United in time, that deserves the same amount of scrutiny, if not more, because he is at a club that should be winning leagues, Ollie. I mean, at least for
Poch. Joe, imagine if Poch had said that as United manager. Imagine Poch comes in 2-3 years and he says exactly the same thing. The uproar. Yeah. This is the problem. It's more that than Ollie's comments. It's more
in Poch's defence, he was managing Tottenham Hotspur, a team who haven't won the league since 1961, I think. So that's fair enough. But when you're Manchester United manager, when you're top at Christmas or, you're level on points with City, you're asked about winning the league. Whether you feel you're ready or not, you have to give that impression to the fans, to the players, that you are ready to go and take this. And I've been disappointed with a couple of press conferences surrounding the league with Ollie since Christmas, to be fair.
Yeah, Kieran, I want to ask you a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think you have like good insight in this sort of stuff. But do you think that the fact that he made those comments, do you think, because this isn't a Roy Keane in the dressing room, you haven't got those characters. They didn't need Sir Alex Ferguson to tell them what the deal was. They were winners, right? Keanos, Scholesy, Rooney, Giggsy, all of them. Even before, Sir Alex Ferguson didn't tell them they need to win. They did it themselves. They set the standard. These lads are a little bit soft, let's be real, that we currently have in the dressing room. Do you not feel that almost indirectly Ollie's comments might have even filtered down to them, and then they feel like, oh yeah, well, we're not expected to win? Do you think there's a mental impact of having comments like that? If I saw my manager going out into the press conference and basically shoving the rocket up our arse saying, you guys can win this league, even if they believe they can't, surely that sort of mentality and those sort of words, whether you believe them or not, that does have a mental impact.
Yeah, it's important, but I guess the only thing that I'd have to think of is the manager probably knows his players' personalities better than any of us ever will. I've always said it for a while that I feel there's a lot of weak personalities or weak mentalities in the side. I constantly harp on about Harry Maguire, where I don't see the captain material in terms of his presence on the pitch or even around the side. And it does filter through, but I feel like it filters through an entire football club when you don't have experienced players that are used to winning things, because we don't. And that's the biggest problem, is that we went through such a long period. Because I'll say it, I don't care about FA Cups, EFL Cups. I feel a little bit differently about Europa League because it's still a European competition. There's still good teams in it. Anytime that we're in a European competition, I'd want to win. But yeah, there's a fine balance between trying to give your players encouragement to where they will feel that they can basically run through a brick wall for the team, versus saying something just to blow smoke up the players' ass so that they think that they're the greatest thing. Because the one thing that I wonder is, are some of the big personalities there that if you're too positive and over complimentary to them, do their levels drop? Or are they a team that need people not believing in them to actually rise to the challenge? And that's the interesting one, because I've been around dressing rooms where I've had players from both ends of things, that there's some that you have to be really hard on and you really have to give them encouragement. Others that you have to tell them that they're crap in order for them to get the best out of them. And yes, the one thing I took from Ollie's, and it's a little bit different, is that I don't particularly want my manager lying in a press conference, because we constantly ask for kind of the truth from managers and players when they're in these interviews, because so many times we get an interview where we learn absolutely nothing. And that's how I felt under Mourinho and how I felt under Van Gaal, that they would say stuff, but they really didn't really give you anything.
But this is a different. Do you not think this is a different instance? This is not like in a negative way. It's saying, do you not think Ollie's saying, well, you don't even say, yeah, we're going to win the title. He just has to say, and this is also sort of my issue when it comes to the Glazers. All he has to say is we're top at Christmas, or we were top in January, mate. Half the season had gone. Like, United deserved to be where they were. Do you not think even saying we're in the title race like that? I know what you're trying to say, because obviously later on, if United, like they went on a poor form, and then he'll come back to bite him. But actually, I would have respected him more for turning around and saying, yeah, like not even saying we're going to win it, just saying, well, titles aren't winning in January, but we are where we want to be. That's different to saying, oh, we're not in the title race, or we don't want to win this trophy or that one. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Yeah,
there's two different types of coaching that I've experienced anyway. That there's those that will say that they're in a title race, or they're in the midst of kind of winning a cup or a league. And then there's others that literally just take it one game at a time, and they just try and win the next game, and they're not looking for it. And sometimes that's the right way to go. In terms of for the fan base, it doesn't feel good, because as a fan, you want your manager saying that we can win this, we're better than this team, even if it's not the truth, because we said it when United were top, that it's probably a bit of a false position, because we don't expect them to actually be there towards the end, and that it would be good for us even if we were just within 5 or 6 points with a couple of games to go. If it wasn't for City being on this huge run, you probably would have United being pretty close, but City have just been that good. And yeah, I think the one thing I've always learned from Ollie from early on in his press conferences is that you have to see you have to take his actions more than what he actually says, because a lot of the times he'll say something, but then he'll completely go against it. Like, for example, saying that Alexis Sanchez was going to be part of his plans, and then they buy out his contract so he doesn't have to come back. Or that Romelu Lukaku is going to be part of the team. 2 weeks later, he gets sold to Inter Milan. Same thing with Marwan Fellaini. So Solskjaer is just one of those that I feel like he does these press conferences because he has to do them, when he would probably prefer not to be there, because, again, he knows he doesn't want to give too much away either. But yeah, I can completely see it on the fan side of things, that you want your manager coming out and saying, we can win the league. We can win. Like, before this AC Milan game, I wouldn't want my manager coming out saying, oh, this is going to be a really tough game. They're really good. So I would like to say that we have all the confidence in the world that we'll be able to go through, that we have a lot of quality, that we should be able to, we have enough to win. And then if he then wants to say it'll all come down to the day, because that's true. There needs to be a hint of realism, but also I think a hint of positivity, because especially in a fan base like Manchester United, because we've mentioned at the worst of times how toxic it really is. And think about it. One comment that Solskjaer has made, that's probably it's not even the worst comment that.
Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
He was talking more. If you actually listen to the interview rather than people just reading what was posted on Twitter, he was basically
Luckhurst, mate. That's why it's Luckhurst.
Yeah, because he was talking about the development of the entire club, and he was saying how the development of the club, you see more in your league position than you would by winning a cup or two. And look, you can say that. Think about it. Over the last couple of seasons, how many times have Arsenal won the FA Cup, yet they're still 10th in the league and they haven't improved? But then at the same time, there's the other side of things where we can say, well, under Mourinho, where we didn't play good football, we came second and won 2 trophies. Have we improved since then? Personally, I would say yes, because the players that I see putting in performances is better than what we saw under Mourinho. But we're still not at a level, for me, where we can actually compete for titles. Like, Joe, when you see that, when you actually think of, even let's not say just Manchester United, if you think of any football team when you want to see progression, or any sports team, what would be the main thing that you would look towards? Do you look towards the results, or do you look towards the performance of the team?
Yeah, I think results breed success, don't they? And I think that's what you're looking for over a period of time. I think there's no coincidence. You look at Man City, they win games because they create more than anybody else, don't they? And you're not going to score every time you create, but I think the more you create, and the more you attack teams, the more, you will get the wins eventually. And I think that's what it is with United. The better they can play, sometimes, when they don't play so well, it sort of cancels it out, if you know what I mean, because obviously you built that reputation for yourself, and you can fall back on that, and you've had moments when you've struggled and you've come from there and you can go back to there. But I think it's a real I'm a Manchester United fan, and I've been here now 30, I feel old saying it, 34 years, and all I've ever known really is winning trophies. So it is really tough to sit here and say, well, it's all about football. I'm not bothered about trophy. I can't sit here and say that comfortably, to be fair. But I do think with United, in case in point, that if you look at them over the last 3 years under Ollie, like you say, Kieran, I agree, there is visible progress there. Now, we haven't got anything to show for it, but we can tell you that there's visible progress. So I can't really put my finger on sort of what it is. I just think there's a stability at the club. I think that's what Ollie was getting at more than anything. I mean, if you win an FA Cup or you win in a Europa League, it doesn't tell you that the Washer ladies feel more valued than they did when Jose Mourinho was there. It doesn't say that the tea ladies got a rise. Things like that don't tell you that. But it's things like that I think that Ollie's brought back to the club, this feeling, this general feeling around the training ground.
Intangibles, Joe. That's what they call it.
Intangibles. And there's nothing shows you that. They can lift an FA Cup at Wembley. It doesn't mean that everyone at the club will be there to lift the trophy. So you don't see it, do you, when you lift a trophy? But, in fairness to Mikel Arteta as well, if we're talking about Arsenal, even though I think there's been progression at Arsenal where you talk about mood in a football club. So if you want to go down that line, I mean, yes, you can look at them from a football point of view, and it's hard to make a case for their progression because they're 10th in the league. But I think you look at Arsenal now, I think it's just a much happier place. You can just tell that from the players and the way things are around there. The grass that Arteta's got on the club, he seems to have control of the players. Look at what he did to Aubameyang, obviously, in the North London derby at the weekend. It's just a discipline, but it's a nice discipline. It's not the discipline that LVG brought when, everybody had to sit down together for dinner and things like that. There's a way of doing it, but it's a discipline. And it gets to a point where you self-police it. The players self-police it. I think you saw the other week Maguire fined himself, didn't he, or something, because he was late to training, or Matic fined, and that's what you get to a point where and that's what you need to do. I just feel like elements that the club had just been left to grow wild over the last few years, and nobody had taken care of them, and people were just doing what they wanted. People had forgot the traditions and the values at the club, and I think that's what Solskjaer's brought back, and that's the progress that he's talking about. I just wish he'd have just worded it better. That's the thing for me. It's just all in the wording.
Yeah, the one point that you make there that's actually really important is where you mentioned Matic was, I think he was the one. I think Maguire went to train, he had his phone or something on him, and one thing that brings out, and it's always been a point that I've said, is that we don't have enough experienced winners in the team. One of the last ones that we really brought in was Matic, who kind of played on a kind of semi-regular basis. Now, we hear about all the kind of transfer strategies that United currently have and making sure that they sign players within the age of like 21 to 26 or 27. Do you think that while it's going to be important that they sign players that are for the future and are kind of moving along that we've heard of, that it's actually also important that they start bringing in some players that might be on a shorter deal? It doesn't have to be the Cavani's or Zlatan's or Falcao's of the world where it's 34, 35-year-olds, but like a 29-year-old that's won trophies. Do you think that's going to be an important element over the next 4 to 5 seasons, Haider, that they actually have to start bringing in some players that have that bit of experience, that have won a league and not just like they've won a cup here or there? Because that's something that I see is severely lacking. We saw it more last season towards the end when times got tough, especially in that Sevilla game or against Chelsea or against Man City in the semi-final, that this team really just does lack a lot of winners in that team when it comes to the cup competitions.
It's an interesting point. It's a very interesting point. Was it you that mentioned on Red Devils Talk that United should have really been buying those sort of players 7 years ago so that they would be coming in now? Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I've never really thought of it like that. like touching on Cavani, because you're hearing a lot of reports. I saw a few reports that he's fallen out with Oli, that he's refusing to play, that he wants to go to Boca Juniors. I think there's an element of truth that he wants to leave. I don't think he's happy. I mean, can you blame him? Like I was saying to my brother actually the other day, I was saying he's someone who, he's not like a usual footballer. You always hear the stories, he loves horse riding. He's very much sort of, what's the saying, like salt to the earth or whatever it's called sort of guy. He's very, yeah, is that right? Yeah, he's just a normal bloke. He's not all about the flashy life and all that. So I think they're the right sort of moves, but they're the right sort of moves when you've got the team to do it. Those experienced buys. You shouldn't be bringing Cavani in when you don't have a number 9 really, or you have a number 9 that's out of form. It's really, really tough. I think one of United's biggest problems is that it's almost, for me, more the fact that they don't have. I don't think they have enough quality in key areas. I think that's more of an issue rather than the mentality. We know the mentality problem, but I think that Spurs are heading to extra time. I really hope they go out. It's more. I think it's more to do. I wouldn't say bringing in winners, because the problem with bringing in winners is they're very, very expensive. You're going to be paying a lot of money for a ready-made player, so you're better off going towards the Haalands and the Sanchos who've got the ability. Yeah, they haven't won anything in their career or won much, but what they will bring you is longevity. And I think you got to probably identify the younger players who are just before their prime. You got to identify them and do your full research, vet them out properly. Yeah, we are. Yeah, it's true. I think we're an incomplete team, but I don't think that's an excuse for, like, for example, losing the semi-finals that we lost, because we were more than capable in some of those semi-finals to win. I would say it's more to do with the fact that, I would say it's probably more to do with the fact that the players haven't won a trophy. That's what I would say.
There were some bad tactical decisions in a couple of those.
And that as well.
The Chelsea FA Cup semi-final, to play that back 5 was, or back 3, call it back 5-3-3 or whatever. It was a poor decision. That's what I wanted to say as well before. I'm not saying you guys, but before people do jump down my throat. But it's more to do with, I think you can win a trophy with this side easily when they're all fit and firing. I think the issue is that, like Joe said, the decisions. I think there's other issues to do with some of the maybe the approaches to some of these games. And again, there's issues with our clinicalness. We saw against Sevilla, we had so many chances, and we would have beaten Inter if we got to that final. I'm convinced of it. We should have won that trophy. So it's more to do with that. What United should be doing, I understand what you're saying, but you're going to be looking, if you want to bring in someone in their prime, like, I don't know, who are we thinking is in their prime? Give me a name.
Tony Cruz.
Yeah, someone like him. He's probably more. He's hitting 30, isn't he? Someone who's like 26, 27 is going to cost you. Yeah, great shout. Thank you. Cheers, Maroon. Kane. That's going to be £150 million player, and that's the issue. Like the outlay to bring in play, and also, does Kane bring you a winning mentality? Well, he'll take you to the next level, but does he bring?
Let's say someone like Rafael Varane, who's won everything at Real Madrid. Because he's still 26, 27, won the World Cup with France, won multiple Champions League, La Ligas. That's a start. And it doesn't have to be like your absolute superstars. Because we mentioned it, look, the superstars can be in the form of the younger players, a la kind of Jadon Sancho and players like that. But I've always said it before, you need kind of those glue guys in your team that, okay, they might not need to start every single game, but they're important members.
Like a Ramos, for example.
Yeah,
I think someone like that.
I talk about it for United's, like in their prime, having players like Ji-sung Park, who a lot of people say that we have those players in like Dan James, Scott McTominay. I don't think that's to that level where Ji-sung Park didn't need to play every single game, but when he played, he was playing for a reason, and he was good enough to play. I think that's the bit of a difference that I think the team is missing, and it does come down to some aspects of recruitment. And look, you mentioned it already, Cavani. Look, I think the reports are probably a little bit far-fetched in terms of falling out. I think it's more of that he probably wants to retire in Uruguay,
South America. Yeah.
So
you blame him?
I think you can't really blame him. He probably expected that this year. But again, it's one of those. But then I guess the other one, and it's where we'll kind of end today on, because it was a bit of a story that I think has been rebuffed, really. But it's interesting that it's come up again, is the whole idea of Donny van der Beek not being too happy. Now, I know, was it Frank de Boer came out and asked some people in Ajax if it was true and things like that. And according to them, that he's been very happy at the club. But you do have to worry, okay, maybe this is this one season, then he needs to acclimatize himself to England. But if this doesn't improve next season, what can United actually do other than sell him? And the problem is that if you sell him 2 years after you've just bought him in, can you really make much money from it? Even though we said at the start of the season the deal that United got was really good for a player of his quality, is it so much that Solskjaer is going to have to figure out a way that he plays? Now, even if it means that he has another plan when he's brought on after an hour, he doesn't have to start every single game, because it's very difficult to have him and Bruno starting in the same team. But does he need to figure out a way to where he can actually utilize the same way that Ferguson used to do it when he had 4 different strikers, or he had
Tevez, Berbatov, Rooney, Ronaldo, I'm pretty sure.
And they had to play in different ways. You couldn't play the same way when you had Tevez, Rooney, and Berbatov playing, because it doesn't work that way. In terms of, I'll give this one to you, Joe, first. In terms of Van de Beek, first of all, do you think that there's anything that the player can do to kind of improve his chances to start in the team? And is there anything that Ollie needs to do to try and kind of make him fit within a starting 11 or when he comes on? So, because for me, most of the time he comes on, he looks a little bit lost, that he doesn't know where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, look, I think we've said at the start of the season on our DT, didn't we? I think the onus is on Donny here to try and, Ollie's got this clear system that I don't see him veering from. The only thing I will say is that let's have a look at United's summer business. Let's see what they do. There are a couple of players or positions that Ollie could improve in the summer that may allow Donny to fit into his system a little bit better. So, certainly if we improve the CDM position, I think that might, in some games, allow Donny to play a bit more. But for me, I think Donny, even when you look at him physically, I think he needs to be stronger. I think he needs to bulk up. The game that he wants to play is not the way that United play either. That's a problem, even from a philosophical point of view. Sorry, can't get my word out. I think it's an issue because I don't ever see us becoming that sort of one-touch play and move sort of team. I just don't see that that's the way we're going. And it's different because I think it's different to Cavani for you. I think Cavani, by the way, his future will be decided on what's best for getting into the World Cup squad. So that will basically shape it. Cavani wants to play in the next World Cup. So if he's got assurances that by playing in South America, he'll get in that Uruguay squad, I think he'll be happy to move to South America. If the boss comes to him and says, well, you need to be doing it in a top European league, I think he'll have to stick with United because I don't think there'll be another European club will come in for him after this. But on Donny, yeah, I think the onus it's always been more on Donny because I just feel that Ollie is very set with his 4-2-3-1. It doesn't make me happy saying that because I would rather us become more of a 4-3-3. But when you look at the personnel that we have and you look at the people we seem to be targeting, it's very quiet around the CDM this summer. It doesn't look...
It's only Declan Rice, that's it.
Yeah,
which
exactly.
I'll be happy with.
Yeah, but you're not really... And the only way I see them getting Rice is by doing something like maybe giving West Ham Lingard and Henderson and maybe you get Rice for a few million. That's an option, but I just don't see Rice happening. I think Rice wants to go to Chelsea as well. I think he's obviously got a preference to go there. It's difficult. But apart from Rice, you don't really see United being linked to that position, which is strange because obviously they seem very close to getting Caicedo in January. But yeah, that's the only way I see Donny, that's the only way I see United helping Donny get into this team is by changing the way that we set up tactically or our formation, if you know what I mean. Because in this 4-2-3-1, there isn't a position for him in my eyes.
Yeah, look, I'll give the last word to you here, Haider, about Donny. Do you think that there is anything, even let's say from this season to next season, is there anything that he badly needs to improve on in order to kind of get in the good graces of the manager? Because we've seen players do that before. Like, Even look at when Ollie first
Fred.
came and he wouldn't even put Fred on the bench and everybody was assuming that he was just terrible in training. Do you think that there's anything that Donny needs to do, whether it's tactically or what he's actually doing on the pitch, to start getting more minutes for Manchester United?
It's a tough one. I said in October that I think we'll struggle to see Ollie's long-term future, and I got absolutely slaughtered. It's not me being reactionary. I just sometimes you can just see things. Now, what I could see straight away, I thought Donny van de Beek was a really smart signing from Man United. Why? Because as we said earlier, 40 million for a player like that, to pick it up and to wrap it up as quickly as we did, is good business. The biggest issue is, like Joe said, we don't play one-touch football. We've got probably the most inform in terms of numbers, number 10 in the whole on the planet, to be honest with you. What Donny needs to do is that he needs to, like Joe said, bulk up. But what he also needs to do is he needs to adapt and adjust to the pace of the Premier League. He has to understand that when he's without the ball, as Bruno Fernandes does, he presses relentlessly. That's what Donny van de Beek needs to do. Donny van de Beek also needs to understand that he needs to stay centrally. These are very basic points, and he's not doing that, and that's why Ollie's not picking him. The issue, I think, as well, and one sort of, I guess, an X against Ollie's name, is that he's paying him 5 to 10 minutes a game, 5 to 10 minutes, and that's a big problem. How can you gather any sort of momentum doing that? So I do feel sorry for him for that. My sort of final point on it is that, in hindsight, now we're sitting here, is it a right fit? Was it the right sort of player to bring in? Could that 40 million have been spent better on someone else, probably a defensive midfielder? I think so. And when you're looking at the way that he doesn't look happy, in my opinion. And I think those reports, I know we saw Frank de Boer come out and say, oh, he's happy. He's not happy. No player's happy sitting on the bench. I know the game's starting in a second, but what I will say is that he's got a big end of season ahead of him. If anyone thinks he's just going to come in and slot in and replace Pogba, is absolutely deluded. That is not going to happen. He's not Pogba's replacement. He's rotation. If anything, he's actually Mata/Lingard's replacement.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Look, it's been great having both you guys on. We'll be back next week again. It'll probably be next Thursday again. Everybody, make sure you enjoy the game. Hopefully, United go through with a win. Also, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. We're pretty much everywhere you can get podcasts. Just go look at the bottom of the screen. So we have YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Apple Podcasts, all of those. So we will see you guys next week.